Are you guys ready to get started? Gentlemen? You guys ready to get going? All right, good afternoon, gentlemen. Good afternoon, gentlemen. Good afternoon. Excellent, excellent. We're all leaders, correct? Yes. We're all here and present, correct? Yes. All right, so my name is J.J. Arnold. I'm an initiate of Theta Omicron at Indiana State, and also was initiated at Kappa Omega at Wisconsin Whitewater. And I was a chapter advisor for 13 years up there, and I'm currently sitting on the Pike U Board of Directors. So I'm a volunteer. I don't work for the headquarters, but I'm on the Board of Directors, which facilitates the educational programming at these types of events. So over the next hour, we're going to talk about emerging leaders and what is presence. So just for my own sake, how many freshmen do we have in the room? Oh, 1, 2, okay. Sophomores? Juniors? Seniors? Oh, wow, okay. So a little bit older of a group, all right. Sounds good. And how many presidents are in the room? Okay. Vice presidents? Chairman? Any type of chairman role? Okay, good. Excellent. All right, so we got a good mix of people. So has anybody ever seen me present before at a Pike University event? 1, 2, okay, good. What I ask of you is that you are present, meaning that it's very interactive. Because I can sit up here for an hour and facilitate all you want. But the best way of learning that I learn and you learn is through direct dialogue. So all I ask is that you're engaged, ask questions, and when you have a question or a comment, or if I call on you, introduce yourself, tell everybody where you're going to school, and if you hold a position in your chapter. Sounds like a plan? We good for an hour? Yeah? Everybody nod their head? Yeah? Good, 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 good. So can anybody tell me, what is an emerging leader? What is an emerging leader? What is your definition of emerging leader? Yes, sir.
Name.
Yep. Yep.
Zach Clark from Gamma U, University of Iowa. I'm just on the J board.
Okay.
Emerging leader, someone who is going away from the pack and really coming through and leading everyone around, being there again with presence. You know, he's there and he's someone you can look forward to. He's emerging from the crowd.
Okay.
Separating himself from everyone else.
All right. Anybody have a different thought to what an emerging leader is? Yes, sir. Okay.
To me, emerging leader is one who doesn't get absorbed in the position they're in, or rank is one who focuses more on progress rather than position.
Excellent. Okay, what else? Anybody else? Yes, sir.
My name is Connor Wicknick, internal vice president, Delta Rho at Winfield College. Emerging leader, maybe they exhibit some natural leadership tendencies already, and through refinement and sort of specializing those skills, they can become really great leader.
Okay, excellent. Anybody else have anything to add before we move on? All great answers, and we'll circle back on that dialogue in a little bit. So why would I use this video clip? Can anybody tell me where it's from? Ferris Bueller's Day Off. All right, so that movie was born before, or was made before most of you were born. But nonetheless, why would I use this video clip when talking about emerging leaders and what is presence? Anybody? What was the economics professor doing? Where? Who said that? Stand up. You know the rule?
Ian Tozan, Zeta Omega at the University of Louisiana Lafayette. He was calling roll and Ferris Bueller wasn't there.
Okay, so he wasn't present. Right, okay, so he wasn't present. What else? Why else would I use that? Yes, sir.
Jeremy Harris, Lana Zeta, Drexel. You also proven that everybody was like the same. Bueller, it was just Bueller.
Okay.
There was no change.
All right, so there's no tone of voice, reflection?
Yes.
All right, very good. What else? So 1, Ferris Bueller was not present. 2, the students were present, but they didn't have presence. So it shows very clearly what the difference is of being present and having presence. And so we'll talk about that a little more as well. So I ask you, can anybody in this room tell me what your purpose is? We go through life, you're in college, you're having fun. I call it utopia because there's nowhere in the world where you get food, water, shelter, fun, relationships, all in a square, couple-mile radius. So, but what is your purpose? Why are you even in this room right now? Why are you part of the greatest fraternity in the world, Pi Kappa Alpha? What is it? Yes, sir.
Zach Barn, game with you again. Other positions, sorority relations. My purpose is just to develop more and become a better man.
Okay. So we have to think about that. And when we're present and or having presence, we have to understand the purpose. Not only the purpose of why we're there or why we're in the environment we're in, but why we are of who we are. What makes us tick? So each of you have a binder right now. I want you to write down one statement of what your purpose is in life. What is your purpose? What are you here to do? What are you here to gain today? All of those things go into what is your purpose. And so when everybody has a statement written down, raise your hand. Everybody got one? Pretty good? All right, next question. Why are you here? Now write that down. We talked about your purpose, who you are, what makes your core, and I'll come back to that term. But why are you here today? What would you like to do? What would you like to be a part of? Why are you surrounded by all these gentlemen? Why are you in Memphis, Tennessee? Do you know who you are? Do you know what your mission, vision, and purpose is? Have you ever written a mission statement? Do you know what your morals, ethics, and character are? What molds you as a person towards your actions and thoughts? That's a tough question. It really is. It's interesting, I'm finishing up my PhD, I'm in my final year, and the first year of the PhD program, it's a PhD in Leadership, Learning, and Service. I don't need a PhD for my job, but I'm doing it because I love learning, and one of the major pieces is who you are. The whole year is about who a person is, and how we think, and what our actions, and what words we use, and why we use those words. What do you want to get out of life? If you had one thing that you wanted out of life today, what would it be? What would that be? The famous saying, seize the day, carpe diem. Seize the day to do what? You want to do one thing that was aligned to your purpose. What would that be? All of this wraps around of being present and having presence, especially in life. And it all circles around being a leader. Because if you don't know the answer to these questions and or have a thought or an inkling towards solving some of these questions, you're not going to be able to serve and lead other individuals. Doesn't mean you have to have it solved. Doesn't mean you have to go from A to Z, but at least get you to B, C, D, E, F, G down the alphabet towards accomplishing what these answers are. So we've talked about this. What does presence mean? So I've given you some examples. What do you think? What did I miss thus far? Who can define having presence in something? Give me your definition. When we talk about present and presence, what does presence mean? Sir, what do you think? Share with the group your thoughts.
Colin Fitzpatrick, Epsilon, University of Toledo. I'd say presence is like leaving your mark on something or
Okay.
changing someone or something or an organization.
All right. What else? What else? Think about presence. Yes, sir.
Shane Bow, Epsilon, UT Arlington. I think my presence would be like not really being that person in the background, but actually making yourself known.
Okay.
Having a voice.
Okay, making yourself known to have a voice. Okay. All right. Lionel, what do you think?
Lionel Miranda, president at University of Nevada, Las Vegas. My belief presence is who you are, what you can do, and when people see you, they know like your reputation, your credibility.
Okay.
And they see that as your presence. You're relevant.
All right. Sterling, where are you? What do you think?
Sterling T. Cash, treasurer at Delta Omega, High Point University. I think presence is a voice of reason, voice of influence.
Okay.
Just everybody knowing what your role is.
All right.
Being able to influence everyone around you.
Very good. All of them great answers. So let's talk about the definition a little bit. Presence, the state or fact of being present as with others or in a place. Attendance or company, your presence is requested. Or immediate vicinity, proximity in the presence of witnesses. A little bit different from what we just heard, but it all comes together. So leadership presence, let's talk about this for a second. Derived from the support of others. Can't be assumed through birth or heritage. We all know those people. Look at Adolf Hitler. Some say he had presence, but was it the right presence? Or you're born into a very affluent environment. But what do you do afterwards? How do you have presence? Do you make use of it in the proper manner? Bill Gates, for instance, spends billions of dollars on fighting different diseases around the world. He was very fortunate with the career he had, and now he's giving back. Leadership presence. Form of communications can't be taught, can't be put into practice. And it goes back to the question, are leaders born or are they groomed, basically? Do you teach leaders or are they born leaders? No one can really tell me the right answer of that one. So, authority. What's authority? Go ahead and read it for the group.
Authority, the skill of getting.
Stand up.
Authority, the skill of getting people to willingly do your will because of your personal influence.
Okay, let's break down those words. The skill. You're present, but if you have presence, you have a skill. And you have presence because someone wants to be around you or you're in that environment for a reason. Of getting people to willingly do your will. So again, what's your purpose? Do you want to solve world hunger, for instance? Do you want to make the best chapter experience ever? It's your will. But other people are a part of it, being a leader. Because of your personal influence. Now, what is personal influence? What form could that come in? What do you think? Sean?
I'm Shane Cowell.
Oh, Shane, sorry.
I'm the president of Epsilon chapter at Yale University, and I would say personal influence is how you carry yourself, how you radiate your ideas, your values, those sorts of things to people around you.
Excellent. What else? Personal influence. Word, sign, or deeds. Actions of verbal and nonverbal. We're taught that in Communications 101, freshman year. Personal influence. So let's talk a little bit. Can anybody tell me what this is? What?
Violin.
A violin. What kind of violin? A what? Anybody tell me what kind of violin this is? Oh, yes, sir. Okay. Stradivari. Very, very good. Well, how would you? No, I don't tell me how you know that yet, but okay. Stradivari. What do you think? What do you think a violin like this goes for? Yes, sir.
Millions and millions of dollars.
Millions and millions of dollars. Okay. All right. Anybody else think differently? Violin's a violin, right? Yeah? Okay. You're right. It's a Stradivari. It was made in 1791. This violin is worth $39 million. It has had only 2 owners in its life. This is one of the most famous Stradivarius in the world. In the world. And the only reason why it has 2 owners is because the first owner had it stolen. And the only reason it came back up into the market, or back into the surface of life, I would say, is because the person that stole it gave it to his wife on his deathbed because he was so guilty that he did it. And so it went up on the auction block again. And a certain individual bought the Stradivari. Now, what makes a Stradivari? What makes a violin, for that matter? Can anybody tell me? We have any musicians in the house? Yes, sir. Stand up. Have presence. Okay, so wood, but what do you think makes a violin? What makes that perfect sound? And a guitar, a violin, a horn. Think about a violin. It's wood, strings, right? The neck. The Stradivari is the violin it is. One, because it's made with the best woods around the world, but it's the varnish that makes the perfect sound. Basically with eggs and gum from a sub-Saharan tree. That is the original finish. It has not been refinished. It's a beautiful, beautiful violin. You'll see where I'm going with this in a second. Can anybody tell me who this individual is? You know? No? 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 No one? That's good. That's good. I like that. This gentleman here was a genius at 4 years old. He was playing the violin. Almost self-taught himself how to play the violin and read music. He is now, let me think, 43 years old. This picture was taken when he was 39. Every woman fawns over him because he dresses well, he looks good. He also makes $1,000 a minute when he plays the violin. $1,000 a minute. I wish I had a job that had $1,000 a minute. Anybody tell me who this is? His name is Joshua Bell. And the Washington Post did an exercise of being present or having presence. And so we're going to go through that a little bit. But Joshua Bell, like I said, genius, millionaire, bought the Stradivari from the lady when it went up in the auction block, and plays beautiful music in some of the most gorgeous symphony halls around the world. But when he plays, he makes $1,000 a minute. People come to see him. There's never a seat empty in any of these symphony halls. Not one seat. People cheer loud. I mean, they come to him, they listen to him, they cheer, they clap, they give him tons of accolades when he plays. So, as I said before, the Washington Post did an experiment with Joshua Bell. And Joshua Bell went in street clothes to the metro stop in Washington, D.C. And he played in the subway station. And so what we're going to do is we're going to analyze a fast-up version of the video. He sat there for 45 minutes. And then we're going to discuss the outcomes a little bit. But I really want you to pay attention not only to Joshua Bell, but what's happening around him. The individuals. What were the verbals and the nonverbals? And then we're going to discuss it in the frame or in the context of having presence or being present. Is that a good deal? We're all on board? Everybody still with me? All right, sounds good. So let's do this. So the bottom of the video said, "I just saw you play at the Library of Congress." Oh my God, it only happens in DC. Thank you. So what were some observations you saw in the time-lapsed video? You really had to pay attention. Thoughts? Yes, sir.
You all know who I am. There's there's a busy metro station. People don't care,
Yep.
even though he sells out arenas. That woman noticed him, so she stopped. I think there's only like one. He might have just been sitting against the wall, but
Okay.
people would sit against that wall and look at him for a little bit.
Okay.
For the most part, people just carried on with their day until that lady stopped when people started to stop.
All right, and she stopped because she had seen him previously, so she recognized him. Okay, what else? Yes, sir.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Sebastian.
Sebastian, all right.
We actually studied this in a couple of my psychology courses. Pluralistic ignorance.
Okay.
And bystander effect. A lot of it, like, unless you recognize someone, you're too busy, feet to the floor, to observe what's actually going on. Like, you walk by, one of the biggest things is like, meet everyone you can as soon as you can, because you never know who that person is going to be. And with that, like watching that, you can see like $1,000 a minute when he plays, he's playing for nothing.
Yep.
And only one person actually knew who he was.
Right.
And like there's one or two people leaning up against the wall. You can see frames that are appreciating it.
Yep.
Without bustle and hustle, and everyone's on their own way.
Okay, very good. Very good observations. Yes, sir.
My name's Thomas Wright from Yale.
Thomas, thank you.
I know this thing goes back to the authority thing that you're talking about.
Okay.
Like one person is following him, looking out amazing, and other people kind of go in.
All right.
See if someone's watching more people start to get out of it.
Okay, so you're building that influence.
Yeah, once you see one person, you'll see that one person's following him, and then nothing, and then more likely to follow. Go back to that authority.
Excellent. Good observation. Any other thoughts? Yes, sir.
Jeremy again from Atlanta Zeta. Even though it was sped up,
Speak up.
Even though the video was sped up, it looked like it took a while before people even appreciated his music, like dropping money or just
Okay.
a slight pause. It's like, I guess not many people are into classical music nowadays as back then, but it seemed like, oh, it's just some guy maybe trying to make a few dollars.
Yeah.
Just appreciate the fact that he's playing something that you may not have heard before and you may enjoy.
Okay. All right, fair enough. Any other comments? Yes, sir.
Gary Zhang, Beta Pod, University of Pennsylvania, and it seemed that he was present there,
Uh-huh.
but he just didn't have the same presence that he used to, because he was stripped of his fancy clothes, concert hall around him,
Yep.
expensive tickets. So people just did, even though they saw him, they didn't recognize him as being this important figure, an important musician that he actually is.
Excellent. Very good observation. Very good. Anything from over here? Any thoughts? Okay, so let's take it from the Joshua Bell side first. What do you think his thoughts were? He showed up in jeans and a baseball cap from a coffee shop. Set up shop, opened up his case. Did you guys see the case on the ground? Opened up and started playing Ave Maria. So what do you think his thoughts were afterwards? Because this was an experiment for him too. And Jerry kind of touched on it a little bit. Yes, sir.
I think it's a very humbling experience to see all of a sudden that after all of the stage is gone and the fancy clothes are gone and not sold out concerts now, even someone who built themselves up so high can just be, ignored just like everybody else if he doesn't make his presence known.
Make his presence known. Very good. Very good. Any other comments? How would Joshua Bell feel? Yes, sir.
Andrew Kaiser, Atlanta Zeta chapter. To me, that kind of shows me it doesn't matter who you are, it matters what you are.
That's right. Did everybody hear that? Who you are, it's what you are? Yes, sir.
Yeah, that's what we have to do in New Kelta.
Okay.
Anyways, it's appearance is everything.
Appearance is everything?
Like, it's what's around you, how you dress, how you act, like the location you are means
Excellent.
everything. Like presentation, like the presentations we've done all week.
Uh-huh.
What we wear, like you dress to be dressed for success.
That's right.
Like it definitely makes a difference.
Good. Joshua Bell admitted to the reporter that the worst feeling he had is when he stopped playing in the subway station. No one clapped. People just walked by. And in fact, one point he said that no one even put money in the violin case. When people are spending hundreds of dollars to go see him at these beautiful concert halls. And for him, it was a humbling experience. It was about, why am I doing this? Why do I love music so much? What am I trying to accomplish from it? So from himself, he had a growth experience. But as Sebastian said, from the listener's perspective, it was dead on. So the people walking by, DC's a very busy city. People are going, they're running, they're not paying attention to you, nor do they care about you. They just go to work, go home, go to work, go home. Several observations. We talked about the lady at the end. She recognized him, recognized the music. As such, she was there and she gave him the proper accolades. That was wonderful. She said, thank you so much. There was I don't know if anybody caught the little girl walking through the video. Little girl, mom was pulling the girl through because she was late to drop her off at daycare. I think it was like 6 or 7 years old. The girl kept pulling back because she said it was beautiful music. And I wanted to hear more. Mommy, can we stay and listen? But she stopped for 30 seconds and then they took off again because she had to get to work. The gentleman that leaned against the wall, he just wasn't there. He was going to work. He was 10 minutes early. He worked at the Department of Energy. He didn't know what he was listening to, he said, but he knew it was something great. And so he stopped and listened for about 3 minutes and tried to understand what was going on. Across from where Joshua Bell was playing, there was a barber shop. And they interviewed the lady that worked in the barber shop, and she said, there's people playing musical instruments every day. She goes, usually I call the police on them, they have to haul them out. She goes, in fact, just 2 days prior to this, someone died, and he was there all day, and we didn't even know he died. He was just there lying, and thousands of people went past him. Thousands of people. And a homeless guy died. But she didn't call the police on Joshua Bell because the music was something else. There was presence within the music that he was playing. It just wasn't a panhandler of the day. So as you can see, we've talked about verbals, nonverbals. What's your mission, vision, and purpose, and your core. And as an emerging leader, all of those things come into play, especially when we're discussing, are you just present at the chapter meeting? Or do you have presence at the chapter meeting? Do you have presence when you're with your significant other? Do you have presence when you're with your mother or father? Do you have presence when you're on your internship or at your job? And it's hard. I'll tell you guys, it's hard. I'm the director of sales and business development for a large aerospace company, worldwide aerospace company. I almost grounded 700 aircraft this week. And the next day, I didn't want to do a damn thing. But you know what? I also know I have a team of people that depend on me. And so I have to have presence every day. I have to speak with intelligence and act accordingly. And you're very correct. Our actions speak louder of our words. And you know, we're all human. We're all going to slip. We really are. We're not perfect. But when you do something that has meaning and meaningful impact. And we'll talk about that a little bit. So creating presence. We talked about this. Character, appearance, smile, communication skills, and faking it. So character, we've talked about this. Who do you want to be? Who do you want to be known as? Do you want to be known as Joe Schmo that does nothing, bump on the log in the back of the chapter room, that's simply just sitting there and heckling all day? Or do you want to be known as someone that's making a difference, not only for your brothers, but for yourself and the environment and the community that you're in? Sometimes, in order to be a leader, you have to be a follower at the same time. The big thing in leadership right now is the topic of followership. And there's some books coming out right now on how followers are actually the instrument of change to become leaders. And so if you look what's happened a year ago in Egypt, and it was all done via Twitter and Facebook. They had the whole revolt over Twitter and Facebook. A young guy in his 20s. It's that character, knowing what you want to do. Appearance. Again, if I showed up here in a jeans and a t-shirt or shorts on, would you have thought differently than I showed up in a suit? Absolutely. You're like, how does this guy have enough credibility to stand before me? I'm not going to listen to this guy. Smile. You know what? Positive goes a long way versus negative. Let's try to stay positive. Try to spin your sentences or statements into positive statements. Or if you're asking someone to do something, cause and effect it. Communication skills. There are people that aren't the best orators. That's a reality. It's okay. But if we work on it, we read well, we listen well, we don't put our butt in the wrong spot, we listen. And you know what? Sometimes you just really have to fake it, and you have to learn how to fake it. As leaders, again, we're not perfect. Sometimes we just got to put a smile on our face, grin and bear it. It's like 2 a.m., your brother calls you, you're snuggled up with your significant other in bed, and all of a sudden you got to go pick up your brother at 2 a.m. because he's drunk, face down in someone's yard. And someone kicked him out or he's vomiting on himself. And he calls you and say, bro, can you come get me? You don't want to do that. You're all snuggled up and warm and you're like, yeah, it's going to be a good night. But you do it because you have presence with that person. He wouldn't have called you if you didn't. And you know as a whole it was the right thing to do. Because he could have gotten in his car, drove, and killed himself that night because he was too drunk to drive. But you have to fake it sometimes. I touched on this, listening. We got to be great listeners. We have to listen, and listen with presence. Listen for what I know. So, we know some of the buzzwords, we hear it, we understand it. Listen to learn something new, because we do not know everything in life. I learn something from every conversation I have. And I love having conversations with you guys because I learn where you're at, what you're doing, the new things that are going on. If you ask some of the whitewater guys, I always go back and I interweave a new saying into my presentations. And they're like, wow, you picked that up, and where did you get that from? And I said, well, I was in this country, or I was talking to this person about something. Listen to the feeling beneath the words. Having empathy. Because someone might be faking it with you. And usually those are situations where action needs to happen. So what is your brother really telling you? What is your partner telling you? What is your boss really telling you? And some people, the reason why they get fired from their job is because they haven't listened to their management ahead of time. Having action plans laid out for you. You know, hey, you really need to start coming in on time. Hey, you really need to up the ante on your quality of work. Those type of things. And as a result, they get fired. Now, if those things are happening over and over and over, you better start looking for a different job. Because if you don't have a job, guess what? You have no money coming in, you can't sustain life. So again, listen for what I know, listen for something new, and listen for what the true meaning in the word choice is that an individual is using.
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I've ever heard. At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought. Everyone in this room is now done for having listened. I award you no points, and may God have mercy on your soul.
Why would I use this? It just illustrates the point, doesn't it? Absolutely. We could just sit up here, we could talk, and we have dialogue, but you can't fix stupid sometimes. But that's what they could be thinking about you, too. How many read the newspaper every day? How many read a magazine every day? How many go online and read the daily news? Okay. As leaders and as followers, it's incumbent upon us to understand the world around us, the environment to which we're going to have presence. So every morning, I travel almost every day. Every morning, I pick up the Wall Street Journal, the local newspaper, the USA Today, and the Financial Times. I read all four of them before I land in my location. I have a Time magazine that I get weekly, and I have a fun one, either Fast Company or Wired, to talk about new technology trends in the world. The reason why I do that is because, one, I want to be educated. I want to understand the world around me. Two, as a business development and sales guy, I can strike up conversations, not only what's happening around the world, but what's happening locally in Memphis, Tennessee. Those are the types of things, skills you guys need to learn in order to have presence. Because you need to instantly go in, grab it, listen, or speak. Or take action. Based on your purpose, mission, morals, ethics, character. Creating presence, we talked about. Open listen on multiple levels, balancing our own ideas with others. Suspend judgment. We love to tell people they're chodes, but do we really tell them that? Absolutely not. Part of learning and listening is also suspending that judgment. It's hard. It's hard. I will tell you, there was a gentleman last night, he was trying so hard to have a conversation, but after probably 12 beers, he just was not doing a good job. But you know what? I didn't make anything of it. Gave him his time and had a good evening. Now, I could have just said, this guy's belligerently drunk, and I'm not going to have time to speak with you. But I didn't. I stood right next to him, and tried to listen. A little hard, but I got a couple words out of it. So, authentic conversations. Margaret Wheatley is one of the greatest not philosophers, but more on leadership principles and theories. She's an educator, but she has several books. And she goes, I believe to change the world, we need to start listening to one another again. Simply truth conversations where we have a chance to speak. What does that mean? What does that really mean? It's a lot of words. It sounds great, but what does it mean? Can anybody give me their rendering of thought? Yes, sir. Stand up, have presence. We all know you're Sebastian, so just tell us.
Well, it's more of like not just having a conversation, reading between the lines.
Okay.
It's, yeah, we can have conversations with people every single day. It's like asking the general question, how's your day? Is the sky blue? What's the weather like? It's,
okay.
That's a general question, but like really what's going on behind the scenes.
All right.
Like it's different conversations that you need to look at, like the empathy behind it. What's the true meaning?
The true meaning, okay. Gentleman in the back, right there. Yes, you. What do you think about the quote? Okay. So, I believe to change the world, we need to start listening to one another again. Simply truth conversations where we have a chance to speak. What does that say?
I don't usually have the best ideas all the time.
Uh-huh.
To get the best ideas, I need to take what everyone says around me and create one full idea that they use as outcomes.
So collaborative networking. Great thought. Yes, sir.
Matt O'Hara from the Epsilon Delta North Texas chapter. I believe, I guess what I took from that is perception is the reality of the world we live in.
Yep.
And everyone's perception is a little different. So really to understand everyone's view on the world around them, you have to talk to them. And you have to be truthful.
That's right.
On how they actually feel about certain things that are going on around the world.
Yeah. Anybody ever hear this saying, I don't respect their opinion, but I respect they have an opinion? It's true. It's very, very true. Yes, sir.
There's that phrase, one person has one truth, the other person has another truth.
Yep.
It's the real truth. I think this one kind of touches on that. And I could have one truth of one thing, and I'm talking to you, and you have one truth, and if we both actually listen to each other and say what we mean,
Yeah.
we can get to the bottom and get to the real truth.
Very true. All right. Anybody over here? Thoughts? You've been quiet. What do you think?
Brock Schuler, Iota Gamma chapter, Nebraska Kearney. I feel like nowadays it's so lost that we have face-to-face interactions with someone. And there's a lot that you can have, conversations over text, but you need that sort of face-to-face, whether it's like expressions or the tone of voice to really understand what someone else is saying.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. How many of you checked your phone during this presentation? You can be honest. About half of you, right? So what if we just didn't have that cell phone anymore and went back to face-to-face communication? Like I said, I travel almost every day. 250,000 miles a year I travel. My travel budget's $150,000 a year. I just spend on travel because that very reason. Because I could do video conferences, I can get on teleconferences, I can do all of that. But in the end of the day, what seals the deal is having a face-to-face conversation and looking person in the eye and having that truth and trust factor played in. You'll never replace it. We could be the most technologically advanced ever, to the nth degree, but at the end of the day, we're all humans and we all love the touch. We love the simple fact of, hey, you're doing a great job, or you know what, it's nice to meet you. Thank you. That's what seals the deal. That's the difference between a leader and not a leader. That's the difference between present and having presence. So, has anybody ever seen this model? Servant leadership right now is one of the most studied leadership principles in theory on the market today. Because there's situational leadership, there's the one-minute manager, there's transformational leadership, there's all these different principles. Servant leadership was based on Greenleaf's theory of servant leadership. He was an AT&T sales guy, went back and really thought about what his purpose was in life. How was he going to make a difference? In Indianapolis, there's a whole institute, the Servant Leadership Institute. And they discuss this model of leadership. So remember the definition of authority? Let me see if I can go. Rick, do you think I can go back to it? What do you think? Why don't you read that for the whole group? Since we have a couple that don't have their eyeglasses. Okay.
Tyler, from your response next to that, authority is the skill of getting people to willingly do your will because of your personal influence.
Yes, the skill of getting people to willingly do your will because of your personal influence. Now think of that as we go here. Servant leadership is about serving others before yourself. So, leadership is based on authority, which is predicated in service and sacrifice, which is rooted in love, the act of, to gain the will, to gain the action. Blanchard said if you have will plus action equals great things. Will minus action equals squat. So let's play this out. Leadership is based on authority, which is predicated in service and sacrifice, which is ultimately rooted in love to gain will. Now let's play it the other way. Once you have the will, you gain the love or the action to serve and sacrifice, which ultimately you're gaining authority, having presence through authority, which is different than having power, and then you become a leader. See kind of how that plays out? So think of individuals like George Washington and Mother Teresa and Martin Luther King. Those individuals, they had the will to do something and they gained the love and ultimately served and sacrificed. Ultimately gaining authority, others joined him or her and had presence to be a leader. Now if you think of Genghis Khan and I used Hitler as an example, and Fidel Castro in Cuba. They had power instead of authority. And what happened? Any history buffs in the room? What happened to those individuals, the ones I just named? What?
Loss of power.
Loss of power. And why? And why? Why did they lose their power?
There are people who are turning against them.
Yeah. Absolutely. Power usually goes hand in hand with money and bullying. The people I mentioned that had authority didn't bully, and they had no money. They served and they sacrificed to gain the authority and the will and the love factor to be a leader. So I will tell you, when you go into your first interviews and you start talking about servant leadership, it's going to get brownie points. I'll tell you that right now. So, questions for me. So we've discussed what it means to have presence and or being present. We discussed some of the communication tactics in theory, what to look out for, what not to do. We saw it through an exercise with Joshua Bell in the Washington Post. And we discussed, as an emerging leader, you can incorporate servant leadership into your purpose, in your mission, vision, and purpose, your morals, ethics, and character, to emerge, to become. Because we're all emerging, and we'll all emerge as individuals until the day we die. And hopefully when we die, our presence will be known for life. Any questions? It's your show. If not, guys, that's the end of part 1. We'll pick that up with part 2. Thank you for being very attentive and having presence today. And if you have any questions, I'll be here all weekend. But thank you very much, and I appreciate it.